Is luck real or just a pattern of perception in psychology? For centuries, humans have gazed at the skies, thrown dice, flipped coins, whispered prayers, or clutched lucky charms, all in the hope that the unseen forces of luck would tip the scales in their favor. But what is luck really? Is it a tangible force that intervenes in our lives, granting fortune to some and withholding it from others? Or is it merely a lens, a mental filter through which we interpret randomness, chance, and coincidence in a world too chaotic for full comprehension? To approach this question, we must first understand the psychological architecture of the human mind. Our brains are not built to accept randomness easily. From an evolutionary standpoint, detecting patterns, whether real or imagined, has often meant the difference between survival and death. If your ancestors saw rustling grass and assumed a predator, even when it was just the wind, they lived to see another day. Those who didn't perceive a pattern might have perished. This cognitive bias toward pattern recognition is deeply embedded in our psyche. It is this same bias that lays the groundwork for our perception of luck. When events unfold in our favor, especially in unpredictable or uncontrollable circumstances, we tend to attribute these outcomes to good luck. Conversely, when things go awry, we often blame bad luck. But are these forces truly external, or are they self-imposed narratives we construct to make sense of complexity? Psychology tells us that the answer leans heavily toward the latter. The concept of illusory correlation, where people perceive a relationship between events that are actually unrelated, is one of the foundational insights here. A gambler might wear a specific shirt every time they win, believing it brings luck. In reality, the shirt has no influence, but the brain connects the outcome to the context to form meaning. This is the birth of superstition, which is luck's closest sibling. Luck, then, may be less of a force and more of a story we tell ourselves to explain the inexplicable, to feel a sense of agency in a world that often seems indifferent. When we feel out of control, luck offers a balm. It soothes our fear of chaos. It gives hope where there is no logic and comfort where there is no control. Yet, this story is not without its consequences. The belief in luck can be empowering or paralyzing, depending on its context. In some cases, attributing success to luck can foster humility and gratitude. In others, it can diminish personal responsibility or effort. If you believe your fate is entirely governed by chance, why try at all? But if you think a little luck will help, you might take that first bold step into the unknown. Interestingly, psychological studies have shown that people who consider themselves lucky tend to engage in behaviors that increase their chances of success. They're more open to new experiences, more observant of opportunities, and more resilient in the face of failure. In other words, believing in luck, ironically, might make you luckier simply because of how it changes your behavior. This is known as the self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind doesn't just observe reality, it shapes it. If you expect good fortune, you might subconsciously act in ways that create it. If you anticipate failure, you might miss doors that were slightly ajar simply because you weren't looking. Perception doesn't merely color our experiences, it often defines them. This raises another compelling question. If luck is a perception, can it be trained? Can we become luckier by reshaping our mental frameworks? Some psychologists argue yes. Through practices like gratitude, mindfulness, and cognitive reframing, we can shift our focus from scarcity to possibility. We can notice patterns of opportunity instead of threats. We can reframe misfortunes as stepping stones instead of dead ends. Luck, in this light, becomes less about external forces and more about internal alignment. It's about noticing rather than receiving, participating rather than waiting. It's a dance with uncertainty, where your posture matters as much as your partner. And yet, we cannot fully escape the reality of chance. Some events are simply beyond our control. Accidents, illnesses, genetic lotteries, geopolitical chaos. These are not figments of perception. They are the hard randomness of existence. To ignore this would be naive, but to surrender completely to it would be nihilistic. The sweet spot lies in the balance. acknowledging randomness while cultivating a mindset that tilts the odds in your favor. This dual awareness of chaos and choice is the essence of human experience. We walk a tightrope stretched between destiny and decision, between what we can shape and what we must endure. In this space, luck is neither fact nor fiction. It is myth, metaphor, and motivation. It is the language we use to cope with unpredictability and the spirit we invoke to keep moving forward. So is luck real? Perhaps not in the scientific sense, but in the psychological and emotional landscapes we inhabit, it is as real as hope, fear, love, and meaning. It shapes how we interpret our stories, how we build our beliefs, and how we choose to act in the face of uncertainty. Luck, then, is not something we find. It's something we live.